That was President Obama minutes ago speaking in Orlando about the terrorist that killed 49 people. But while the president was speaking, we learned of reports that the Orlando shooter was texting his wife while he was at the Pulse nightclub right before the police entered. Now, we know that officials are considering criminal charges against the shooter's wife, so what does it all mean? Joining me now, Steve Rogers, Cathy Taylor, Jessica Tarlov, and Kelly Riddell. Kelly, listen, this thing gets more despicable every single moment, but wow, this is a bombshell.
I mean, she should have gone to authorities the first time that she had any suspicion that her husband was planning any sort of attack, and there's no indication that she did. And now that we're getting these reports that she was actually receiving texts at 4 a.m. during this shootout is just despicable. But I'll tell you what else is despicable. President Obama today using this massacre as a way to rally arms for gun control, and it's emotional blackmail at its best. Now, this was a man that was clearly radicalized, pledged his oath to ISIS. This is Islamic terrorism. He would have gone in with a bomb if he didn't have a gun. So this is really emotional blackmail on the part of the president that you're seeing today at a funeral that should really bring the country together, not tear it more apart. Yeah,
you know, Jessica, we do have a lot of things happening at the same time. I was also struck. I was surprised. Just like earlier in the week when we got the update on ISIS and the president launched into a sort of vitriolic campaign mode, but I didn't think there would be a repeat of that act today. And that was somewhat surprising. I think he's overplaying his hand.
Oh, I don't think so. I think this is exactly what gun control advocates want to hear. We know there was that very harrowing footage of the mother outside of the nightclub.
Moment out for the victims and their families.
I don't know. I mean, we need to hear from the victims and how the victims' families and how they feel about it before we pass judgment. I completely understand this concern, though. I know this happens over and over again. This is a pet issue for President Obama and the Democrats and now some Republicans, which is nice to see. But we do know that there are family members, many of them, who want more gun control measures. They want universal background checks. It seems like
there's sometimes some things should be put aside occasionally for the sake of everyone involved. And again, you go down to meet the families of the victims, Steve, and you come out of it with a rehash of this commercial that we saw earlier in the week. There's plenty of time to argue this.
Charles, there's plenty of time to argue it. Look, this is the same president who just recently said that ISIS is on the defense, and the CIA director comes out and says ISIS is on the offense. Now he's turning this into a political issue. You are absolutely right. How about showing some compassion for the victims, focus on the victims, focus on radical Islamic terrorism and how we're going to deal with it.
But how about you ask the victims' families how they feel about it? It's amazing. We're sitting around here in a studio in New York legislating. Ask them how they feel after their children were slaughtered.
How about the entire nation has been victimized, all right? The entire nation has been victimized by an administration that refuses to fight terrorists. This isn't about gun control. It's about terrorism. And unless we address terrorism, we're going to see repeats of this.
Blame has never solved a problem. Freedom is a more powerful weapon in this country than guns. Let's start talking about the solutions. And until the president does that, he's not leading and he's not doing service to these victims.
No one is being murdered by freedom.
You get that, right? There's a gun for every person in this country.
Isn't that fantastic?
We have declining prosperity, increasing mental illness. Let's talk about the solution.
Well, I think all of those things are going to be talked about, and those are all legitimate points. And, you know, I think it's just sort of the timing. I just found the timing today to be odd. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it earlier in the week, but listen, he segued off of a discussion in ISIS. It might have worked for him. Polls suggest that it did, but there are times when I don't know that you poll test everything. And a legitimate moment of silence, a legitimate brief break from all the politics to focus on the people that were victimized.
An epic failure in leadership in this country continues.